To make matters worse, Jane was being taken to a place that was completely alien to her. In 1800, Bath was the most famous resort town in England, a playground for the rich and fashionable, a place for pleasure and relaxation. But not for Jane. She described her first view of the city as all vapour, shadow, smoke and confusion. Everything that had enabled her to work was taken from her as she was plunged into its hideous social world.
I found there enough varieties of tedium to drive me to despair.
She was dragged from party to party, thrust into a desperate world of insincerity which only intensified her feelings of loss. No wonder she became too depressed to write.
I wondered if the true reason for our upheaval was to parade us on the marriage market.
Her letters from this time scream of her unhappiness.
We attended a ball, a rather dull affair, although I am proud to say I have a very good eye for an adulteress. She was highly rouged and looked contentedly silly. We are to have a tiny party here tonight. I hate tiny parties. They force one into constant exertion. Another stupid party last night. Perhaps if larger, they might be less intolerable. Mrs. Badcock ran round the room after her drunken husband. 3 old toughs came in and sat down to whist. Miss Langley is like any other short girl with a broad nose, wide mouth, fashionable dress and exposed bosom. I cannot anyhow continue to find people agreeable.
Without a room of her own, without the pattern she'd established for her work, Jane found she could not take up a pen. The 3 novels she carried with her to Bath lay on a shelf like a reproach. I could do nothing, say nothing, only observe the change in her as though she were mourning what she had lost.
At 27, Jane was unpublished and unmarried. If Mr. and Mrs. Austen had expected her to find a husband in Bath, they were disappointed. This was about to change when she and Cassandra escaped Bath for a visit to stay with their old neighbours, the Biggs, at Manydown in Hampshire. The daughters of the house were friends, and their younger brother Harris, a shy, stammering boy 5 years younger than Jane, had just finished at Oxford and was looking for a wife.
I must confess it came as a surprise that the dear boy had formed an attachment to Jane.
His sisters were so eager to have Jane's company, we thought they might have given him a gentle push. At all events, he proposed to her on the first evening of her visit, and Jane accepted his proposal.
The entire household was delighted, with one exception. Jane passed a sleepless night. The dilemma that faces all her heroines was before her. Should she marry for love or money? Though she did not love Harris Bigg, if she became his wife, her future would be secure. But she had once been in love, and the difference in her feelings now must have been too much to bear.
It was horribly awkward. The next morning, she sought him out and explained, with the greatest delicacy, that she had made a mistake. She could not marry him. And then, of course, we had to leave at once and return to Bath.
I was honoured by his proposal, and I esteemed him. But esteem and respect are not enough. Anything is to be preferred or endured rather than marrying without affection.
Mr. Austen was too good to remind her she had nothing, not a penny, and could have no expectations from him. But I had my thoughts. She could have been mistress of Manydown. Not many girls would say no to that. She could have ensured our comfort in our advancing years, made a home for Cassandra, and assisted her brothers in their professions. But none of this counted with Jane, it appeared.
In Mansfield Park, Maria Bertram is presented with the same dilemma and makes a different choice.
Father, I wish to speak to you about Rushworth.
Maria, yes. Now, you know how eagerly disposed I was to like your Mr. Rushworth.
But you think him an inferior young man? As ignorant in business as in books, with opinions in general unfixed, and without seeming much aware of it himself.
Well...
I'm not blind, Father.
Perhaps the alliance, advantageous as it is, was too quickly agreed to. You need not worry, Maria. I shall take care of you. Every inconvenience should be braved, and the connection entirely given up, if you feel yourself unhappy in the prospect of it.
I will not pretend he is of shining character. But I will also not pretend that enjoying a larger income, a house in the city, and all the other amiable and innocent pleasures the connection will afford are not an attraction. As for the rest, well, he's still young. And I would like to marry him immediately. Within a fortnight.
Jane preferred the prospect of a future of poverty rather than one of unhappiness. Perhaps it was this that spurred her on to try and publish her work. She struggled to return to her writing and managed to make a new copy of Northanger Abbey. This time it was Brother Henry who decided to help his sister.
Being in business myself in London, I was in a position to approach a publisher. He liked what he read, paid £10 for it, and promised early publication. But the book failed to appear. This was the second fool of a publisher we had encountered. And for Jane, it was another blow.